Unfortunately, it's time to say goodbye to the 2002 Saturn L100. Front frame's kind of rotted out on it. Got some other problems with power steering, etc. But she wasn't a bad beast. I guess I've owned it like 13 years, so it did okay. That axle on the passenger side that was kind of loose in the transmission, that never did develop into a problem. That was like 6 years ago, so apparently that was okay. One of the main problems I had with this car was the cooling fans. You got this big expensive relay here. I can't remember what. GM wanted about $200-300 for it. This one here is an aftermarket one I paid about $120 for, and it lasted 3 months. So considering basically when they die, they run both cooling fans at full blast, even at 20 below. So that's when I initially discovered the problem. So my son figured out a way. We bought a $16 thermostat controller switch from Summit, and he took a piece of pipe, welded, I don't know, what do you call it, rings around each end so that it would retain the hose. I cut a piece out of the hose. He also, you know, welded and drilled and tapped so that the fitting would fit there. And then you have one wire, and you just wire it into, well, preferably a ignition controlled wire, or you can run her live if you want, but if the thing fails, it'll run your fans all the time. But anyways, it never did fail. So that at least gave us one cooling fan. It's got 2 of them on it, but then the other ones I had on toggle switches. But you got to run fairly good gauge wire to the toggle switch, and the wires got hot, so I had to kind of cycle them. But it worked, considering the very complicated pièce de résistance here didn't work out very good. So it was kind of like flying an airplane, you know, switches and stuff, but it worked in the end. So like I say, I gotta say goodbye to the Saturn. I was thinking about keeping the engine since it's the same size as is in my HHR, but unfortunately, it's got the power steering pump drive on here. There would be no problem blocking off the end of that. It drives from the one camshaft. A person could block that off relatively easily, but I hear there's a bunch of other numerous changes too. So unfortunately, I gotta say goodbye to this motor. This actually wasn't too bad a car to work on. You see the room you got on the back end there? You know, all kinds of room to get at stuff there, but not that there's much there to get at other than the exhaust. But so this is one that had put a different cylinder head on after it broke the timing chain. But yeah, that was about 6 years ago now, and the repair went just fine. So all in all, it's been a pretty good car. I can't complain. Of course, being fiberglass, there's like no rust on the outer body. Unfortunately, the front subframe, that's a different matter. But we can thank the road salt and the salt they spray for that. But anyway, all in all, not a bad car. So while I was at the scrapyard getting rid of the Saturn there, happened to find these things in the pile. Got a whole bunch of metal Tonkas here. I had one something like this when I was a kid, but it was all steel back then. Scoop was steel for sure, so was the handle. And looks like a bulldozer of some type there, the backhoe on the back. And dump truck. It's in pretty good shape. So looks kind of like a Dodge to me, but then we get the big dump truck. The window's kind of cracked in the front there, but of course, the first thing my wife says, they're all rusty. I gotta admit, this one's a little bit rusty. But you know what? This one's plastic too. Person could kind of take it apart and clean it up and paint it yellow again. I kind of know how to do that type of thing, so I think the grandkids would appreciate these big things in a sand pile. So anyways, I hope they do. So here it looks like it might need a little bit of a weld job there, but I can do that too. It's amazing what you can do when you can fix stuff, you know. Fix just about anything. Heck, I could even weld the Saturn frame up, but you start getting into illegalities and stuff with that. And when I saw how bad it was rusted towards the one back mount on the passenger side, I decided it was time to drive it straight to the scrapyard. But anyway, so yeah, I like the old Tonkas, the metal ones. I'm not a huge fan of plastic, but yeah, you know, whatever. Kids just play with them anyway, so. But just fun toys for the grandkids.